Hello and welcome to another video. Thanks for stopping by. I appreciate your time. You're going to learn a thing or two about growing your freaking muscles. That's my aim with every single video here. So tune in and we're going to address this question by a good friend here of the channel, of the community, Brad. An excellent question, as you can see. But first, before I get into anything, let's pop the top on the globe. Let's get a little bit freaky. Let's get a little bit frisky. It's been a hot minuto since I splashed a little bit of the whiskey into my system. This is a new whiskey. Oh, that's a little dense. Oh, we're gonna be percolated. Cheers. Okay, hold on tight, cowboy. Here we go. Oh, that's gotta have me freaking liquidated. Oh yeah, not gonna lie, I did a couple taste testers before this as well, so lubrication is going to be occurring. We're going to try to keep the train on the tracks at all times, but the lubrication of the tracks is at an all-time high. So we might go off the rails at any given point. So hold on, buckle up, lock in, and let's learn about growing your muscles. Let's learn. Let's educate. Reel it in. Reel it in there, cowboy. Whew. Okay, Brad, let's address this. So basically, we're asking about frequency. How often should you hit the muscle? And volume, how much work or sets should you do in a given session? These are great questions. This is why I want to address this particular comment, because this is hitting at the root of what is one of the primary factors or mechanisms that's going to drive your growth. If you're familiar with the channel, you will already have known that, but I'm going to share with you what's been optimal for me, because that's what Brad is looking for. And hopefully you can take something from this to apply to your own training to spark new growth or carve out more gains. So, to begin with, Brad lets us know he's doing 2 exercises, 3 sets for each exercise. So I'm guessing that's 2 exercises for biceps, 2 exercises for triceps. So that's 6 sets per muscle group. And he's resting 5 days in between each session, hitting them every 6th day. So, and he's seeing good results in strength and size. So I'm guessing that you're just starting out, because for most lifters, if you're already training for a while, this is probably not going to be the optimal or ideal amount of frequency and volume to spark additional growth. And I'm going to get into that, because what my recommendation for both frequency and volume, how often you should train, how much sets you should do, changes as you go. So I think this is a great place to start, And 6 sets per workout, training a little more frequently than once a week is a perfect place to start. If you walk in with high level intensity and absolutely freaking perforate yourself, I don't even know what that means. Attack each workout with a lot of intensity and, hop on board the gain train and push yourself to the absolute maximum, that's going to be more than enough work. But the problem is, the catch is, you're going to see that lead to good growth. Then you're going to go, this is all I got to do. But a year in, if you're consistent and you go to all your freaking workouts, you don't be a pussy, you're going to notice that you're not seeing the same amount of growth as you did in the beginning, because your body adapts to the workload. And then it's capable of doing more. And actually, I would argue, you need to do more. You need to up the ante, increase the stimulus to create a better argument or more pressure on your body to respond to the workouts you're doing by adding more muscle. And so once you've done this for a year, then you can up it. But the key thing to 100% focus on is that if you're not consistent and you train for a few weeks and then you're off and you're on and you're off and things happen with school and work, don't fucking worry about increasing your frequency or volume. Just stay right there until you actually are able to adopt the habits behind going to every single session that you're supposed to and not missing, because the progress you make needs to compound. And when you train consistently for like 2 months, it starts to compound. But then when you miss 3 weeks, it kind of falls off. You're not going to lose all the progress you made, but you lose that momentum. And so it's really important that you stay consistent, showing up to all your sessions and putting in the maximum amount of effort that you have for 1 year to 2 years at this frequency and volume is good. Okay? All right, moving on. I know you want me to move on, but I'm just telling you that is the most important thing, and a lot of people miss that step, and then it doesn't really matter. The rest of the video and everything else I'm going to ramble on about probably isn't going to matter at all. So, assuming that's in place, I would then push you into the intermediate level lifter, where, for me personally, I saw increasing both frequency and volume to lead to more muscle gain. for the arms. We're talking about arms here. First, frequency. I would say after training for many years, but I think if you train for a year to 2 years consistently like this, going down or moving to trying to hit your arms twice a week should be the aim, or resting 2 to 3 days in between each session. Just try it. And at first you might be like, oh, I'm not going to be able to recover. It's going to be too much. Just try it. See what happens. When I tried it, I saw that my body was able to recover and was led to significantly more progress than just hitting the muscles once a week or once every 6th day. Volume, I would up potentially a little bit, somewhere in between 5 to 10 sets, let's say. You're kind of on the lower range of this here, Brad, at 6 sets. So I would suggest bumping that up so you're somewhere 5 to 10, 7, 8, 9, 10 maximum, hitting the arms twice a week. That would be like the next 6-month period where you ramp that up, and maybe at first you just increase your frequency and you keep the volume the same. And then after a month of that, instead of doing 6 sets, you do 7 or 8. After a couple months of that, you bump it up to 8 or 9. And then after about 6 months of training the arms twice a week, doing, 8, 9, 10 sets per, then I think depending on how your body responds, because also I'm assuming that you're training with maximum intensity this whole time too, and that you're pushing every set to absolute psychotic maniac failure, the brink of insanity, that afterwards you could potentially try training the arms every second day. So on 1 day's rest, which I've done for an extended period of time, keeping the volume about in the same range. For volume, I wouldn't go higher than 15 sets per workout. I've experimented with going all the way up to 100 and doing as low as 2 sets. And over many years, I found that, 8 to 12 sets is kind of the peak that my body can recover from in an individual session and it be productive. If I go higher than that, I can do it for a little while, but then the fatigue starts to compound. I'm not fully recovering, and then like a month in, things start to break down and I'm not seeing as good a progress. And then lowering the volume actually leads to more results. So for me, that's the volume recommendation, kind of regardless of how frequent you train. But if your frequency was really low, you might be able to do 15 to 20 sets if you just hit it once a week. But I think you're way better off to bump up the frequency and keep the volume the same, or even drop it a little bit, in my personal experience. So you could experiment after this, which I've done for a long time, training arms every other day. And I'm assuming that you're still training the rest of your body, because my situation is a bit unique. I'm just hitting legs. I don't have a chest, back, or shoulders day because I can't. So for the most part, you're probably going to tap out your frequency at twice a week or once every 3 days. Because that would be like arms, legs, upper, arms, legs, upper, day off. That would be like your 7-day split. So you're hitting your arms twice, you're hitting your chest, back, and shoulders, which I'm calling upper, twice, and then you're hitting your legs twice. I think that's probably as far as you'd want to push the frequency. But if you really want to get freaky with it, you could try doing every other day, in which case I would do like your arms at the beginning of the session if they're a priority, and then hit your chest and back on that same day, and then the next day hit your legs, and then back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And maybe you do that for the first 6 days of the week, and then you take Sundays off. So like Monday would be like arms, chest, back, shoulders, Tuesday legs, and then you repeat that Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then you take Sunday off. But that's a little crazy. That's a little crazy. For most people, you're probably not going to need to do that. But if you're really trying to freaking unearth some new gains and you're willing to venture into the depths of the unknown, I think it's worth trying. Because I found that for me, given that I'm only training arms and legs, every other day training arms worked really well for like the past year and a half. But if I was also hitting chest, back, and shoulders in there, maybe the total amount of work would actually be too much for me to recover from. So that's why I'm recommending. I don't know for sure, but I'm saying it's probably going to be a little too freaky, but nothing bad's going to happen. The thing is, people get so freaked out about overtraining. If you're smart, you warm up, you listen to your body, you're just going to notice that your strength stops progressing, or that it doesn't seem like you're making any progress. Like a month or two will go by and like you won't have gotten any stronger. Your measurements will be the same. Your physique kind of appears the same. And you'll be like, okay, I'm probably just pushing on the gas a little too hard, not allowing for enough recovery. The other thing to consider in all of this is it depends on what your nutrition is like, what your sleep schedule is like, and what your overall lifestyle is like. If your life is like pretty simple and not stressful, and you get 9 hours of sleep every night and you eat incredibly clean, then you might be able to recover from that. But the other person who stays up till 3 a.m. every night and only gets 5 hours of sleep and eats crap, like they may not benefit from hitting arms every second day. So that's the thing that you need to consider. But I don't think you should be afraid of experimenting and trying as long as you build up to it. That would be the takeaway. Kind of as I'm laying this out in a rambly mess, as I always do, is that progressively increasing volume and progressively increasing frequency I've seen to be beneficial, to the point where doing 8 to 12 sets per workout and training my arms as frequently as every other day I've seen to be optimal or lead to the best results for me. However, small little caveat here is that in the past couple weeks, I'm experimenting by going to 2 days rest. So I'm backing the frequency off a little bit. Part of the reason is that over the past year, training every second day has been good. But in the past couple months, my intensity and I think the individual workout volume increased a bit. I elevated those even further while keeping my frequency the same, and I started to not fully recover in between sessions. I didn't really notice this until I, got sick and had to take a week off, and then fully recovering, coming back to a session felt totally different. And I was like, oh shit, the past 2 months, I have not allowed myself to fully recover because I lost your question here. Where'd it go? There it is. Because I kept the frequency the same, but increased my training intensity and the volume a little bit. So all these different parameters kind of play off of each other. And so now that intensity and volume are a bit higher, I'm going to bring the frequency down a little bit to ideally create that cocktail where it creates a constructive amount of stimulus that my body can recuperate from. Whereas before, doing every other day, it was a bit too much. So you could do every other day, but the volume and the intensity need to come off a little bit. And these are things that you should play around with as you go. And ultimately, your body's going to tell you, but you asked for what I've found to be optimal, so that's the case. Moving on. This is a great way of framing all of this, by the way, Brad. What about deloads? Never done a deload in my life. Not a big, I think it could be useful. My mentality, I can't convince myself to do it. And I used to do active recovery workouts where I'd go into the gym and not push as hard. So I'd be I still want to train, but I want to allow myself to recover. Instead of just taking a rest day, I'll go in there and just use the muscle. And I just freaking hate it. I can't get into it. It's just lame. And so deloads, may be beneficial and could be constructive, but I think the upside in turning yourself into kind of a beast mode animal where you only have one speed and that you're going to absolutely obliterate yourself every session while being smart and warming up properly, I think the benefits from that outweigh the benefits of being a bit more measured. And that may be a controversial take, but I think especially as you get more advanced, I think you need to be a bit of a freak to be able to carve out new gains. You need to be a little bit mentally unsettled, or you need to be able to tap into some really aggressive energy, because some days you have no energy, or you're dealing with an issue and stuff, and any reasonable line of thought is going to tell you to back off. And you may be hearing that and be well, that's unsafe to do that, whatever. I've seen through the years, if you are kind of relentlessly committed to doing the work that you're possibly capable of, that you can end up achieving more than you'd think. So there's days where I have a minor injury, or I slept for 2 hours, and there's all these thoughts telling, there's no way I can train. I'm not going to be able to train effectively. I should probably just not go in there. Instead, go in, do all the warm-up, do whatever you can to loosen up the issue, take a little pre-workout, put the music in, and some of those sessions are awesome. And so I think developing that mindset of just kind of relentless attack while also being smart, which is hard to do. And if you warm up properly, and I'm still listening to my body as I go. I'm okay, I'm pretty sleep deprived. Let me just do all these warm-up sets and jump into the first working set. Be careful. And, my body can handle it. All right, let's do another one. Let's do another one. And I've been shown that from doing that, my body has been able to handle more than I would think. And a lot of that is just a mentality thing of I can do this if I just go in there. And if I don't allow space for the thoughts of this is probably not okay, this is not reasonable, or I'm too tired, or I'm sick, or all these things to creep in. bit of a ramble, but that's just trying to give you some context of why for me there's no way I could get myself to do a deload, or it'd be really it would just be really like painful and boring. I'd rather just take like a week off and just not think about training than go in there and like do a back off where I don't push that hard, I lower the weights, all this shit. One last thing, have you found your protein intake needed to increase as your arms got bigger? No. Didn't. But I also never tracked it. I've never tracked my macros, my protein. Not that I don't think it's effective. I think it works really well for some people. Up to this point, I wouldn't rule it out and say I'll never do that, but up to this point, I found it more effective to just kind of do a holistic approach. And I would say over the years, my diet has not really changed that much. That I focus on eating healthy whole foods with a slight emphasis on protein. And none of that has changed. And maybe that, if I did increase my protein intake as my arms have grown, I would see even more results. That's possible. I don't think so from what I've seen. And a big part of the reason that's my belief and approach to nutrition is because I used to be protein obsessed when I first started out. And I used to be super focused on maximizing the amount of protein I could get. And eventually, after like 2 years of that, choking down chicken breasts and like spending a lot of money on protein powders, I just went in the other direction and was like, I'm just going to try eating really, really healthy all the time. And I think I saw better progress from that because my body wasn't inflamed and I wasn't like messing up my digestion from force feeding myself protein, which obviously you don't have to go to that extreme, but just based on that experience, I was like, okay, I think I'm just going to focus on eating healthy, eating clean whole foods and putting a slight emphasis on protein. And I've never noticed a difference. And there have been small blips where I've like up the protein more or like made more of an effort to like eat more protein, and I've never noticed a perceivable difference in like, wow, that's leading to more growth. Anytime I've seen more growth from different things, it's from changing training parameters. And I've talked about this before where I think your nutrition and your rest or your recovery support your growth that gets created in the gym, in that you're going to stimulate new growth through your training and how you train. And then if you could impede that growth by not recovering properly or not eating properly. But I haven't seen an ability to like keep your training the same and then just improve your recovery and sleep more and lead to more growth, or improve your nutrition by eating more protein and lead to more growth. I've seen the main thing to stimulate growth being training, and through all of my time, that's what I've seen. But it's possible at some point I'll notice something different, or I could find something new. I'll do anything that leads to growth. I'm not attached to that ideology or way of thinking, but that's just what I've seen to be most productive for me throughout my training journey. So thanks for friggin' watching. Appreciate your question. Hopefully you learned a friggin' thing or two about training frequency and volume. Those are two of the most important components. It's really good that you're thinking about this because that produces the ultimate amount of workload that you put on your body, which I've seen to be one of, if not the primary driver of growth, combined with intensity, variety stimulus, a few other things. But you're hitting at the core. That's why I like addressing these questions, because if you're thinking like this, I think you're already on the right track. And then you just got to be willing to like experiment and let your body tell you what's going to be optimal. So you should, listen to what I say or ask other people, try it for yourself, and then see what your body does and let your body tell you if that's true for you as well. And I think more than likely it will be, but everybody's individual situation is a little bit different. So I highly encourage you to not just take what I'm saying as law or what anybody else is saying as law, and challenge yourself to develop your own independent conclusions based off of the results that your own body produces, experimenting with the advice that you're taking from others. And I think that's really the game that will allow you to continually elevate your training process and carve out more and more gains. Have a great day. Peace.